Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested in a raid this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Phil J. Pride, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
You guys know what to do, just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel, and tonight we have a good show for you, in my opinion, at least. We're going to be looking at the potential face behind the mask. There was an interesting video that was put out a little bit earlier, and I kind of wanted to expand on it, and we'll talk about that in depth here in a minute, because I think it was an excellent job by Monk's Intrigue, and the job that he had done, and so we'll look at that. And like I said, I expanded a little bit. I saw a little bit of things in the pictures, and so I went further. And then the second part of the show, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss Chris McDonough interview room. I think he still might be live right now. I know a few of you guys will probably jump in after. For those on the replay, crew might be watching as soon as he jumps off. Welcome. We had Chris on. He's talking about some information. He went out there, got a hands-on approach on the scene, and came up with some pretty interesting perspectives and an interesting theory that I wanted to kind of touch base on, see what you guys think about, etc. And so we'll be looking into those things, kind of break it down, so to speak. And without further ado, let's get into it. Please hit the like button. I know there's bigger creators going on right now, and so it helps out with the algorithm. If you guys could hit the like button, that'll get the YouTubes to send this out, and so that way more people get notified. So I'd appreciate it if you guys would. Thank you so much. We got about 80 folks in here. If you guys could hit the like button. And Rubik says, "Oh my God, Daniel, is that you?" I'm joking. Well, my wife said the same thing. It's funny. Without further ado, let's break it down. Let's get into what it is that's going on. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the face behind the mask. Now, Monk's Intrigue did a video on it. I recommend going through and watching it. I'm not going to play his video. It's only 11 minutes and 54 seconds. So go check it out when you're done watching this. Give him a like. Just let him know that I sent you, the Drunk Turkey Show. But basically what he had done was, long story short, what he did was, I guess he did like the negative of the image, right? And you could see certain details of porch guy, things like maybe perhaps the location of the ear, some things with the nose, such as the fact that there's an indent at the bridge of the nose and also where the nostrils are, and he drew this image here. He put them together here and, basically asking, who do you guys think this looks like? Very good job. 100%. I think he did an excellent job. Make sure you go and follow and subscribe to him. This is his logo there. But one thing that I noticed, and one thing that he said was that, you can see this indentation, right, onto the mask. And then when they did the negative and they did the opposite, right, where light is dark and dark is light now, and you got to see some extra features. Now, this here looks bunched up. Now, I don't know if that's because he has a beard or if that's because he has something underneath, or maybe he has some, extra chins. But I just don't think, I don't know. I don't know what he has there. But one of the things that I noticed is there's a lump here, right? So you have, yeah, you even have this prominent, you can see this prominent uh, bump here where the eyebrows are. This person has a very prominent eyebrow, but there's a lump here on his mask and it goes way up here, right? You wouldn't see that lump unless he has hair, right? Now, him having hair automatically that eliminates me. So that eliminates me as a suspect here. But he has hair, in my opinion. I mean, do you guys see that? And it's pretty high up, right? It's not low. It's pretty high up on the scalp, right? And so got a lump, got the hair going. One of the things I noticed is ears appeared to be lower than the eyes, according to, again, this is, this, he sketched it out. This may not be 100% accurate, obviously. And the images that we're going to be going through and looking at are just opinion and representations and Monk's opinion on what he's done here. My opinion when I took it a couple of steps forward, right? And so, but I noticed the lump here. I noticed this back here as well, behind the ear. So again, maybe, and he doesn't look like a very heavy guy, unless he was a very heavy guy that lost a lot of weight. And, he might still have some skin stuff or whatnot, that's going on right here. But I would think he has a beard and hair. That's kind of where my mind went when I saw this. The way it sticks out right here, like underneath, that looks like hair. Like, and if I was law enforcement, and remember, initially law enforcement was very suspicious of Tommaso. I mean, according to Ashley Banfield, now I'm not quite there yet. I don't discredit that theory at this point, because I don't know. I mean, law enforcement has come forward and say that the family's not involved, including him. And so I kind of lean towards that he's not involved. But if, 2 months down the road, he gets arrested, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, no, it's not him. It can't be because of, whatever. I'm just going to follow whatever the evidence says, and the evidence does. But, they suspected it was him. I wonder if the facial hair and this here, right here, because, if they thought that the suspect did not have a beard, right? And then they go and see Tommaso and they see this beard and this thick mane he has. They're not going to say, all right, well, I mean, what did he do? He like shaved it and then Miracle grew it back? No. So if they continue to think of him as a suspect past a few days after the video was released, now maybe by then they already cleared him. I don't know. But if they hadn't, and they cleared, and they got this video and they're looking at him and they still hadn't cleared him yet, then this part didn't rule him out. So they must have thought that there's a possibility that this person had a beard. It's basically what I'm trying to say, is that law enforcement was probably on the same idea that this person, whoever's under the mask, has a beard, and they couldn't rule out Tommaso based off of that at that point. Now, again, I don't recall when it was exactly that law enforcement came forward and said that the family members aren't involved. It was well after the video and things were released, but I'm sure in the eyes of law enforcement and the investigation, it had probably been considered that they weren't involved for some time. So they must have considered that for a while, or thought that was the most likeliness. I would assume probably around the time. And then now this makes me question what I was just saying right now, because when they brought in, was it Carlos and Daly, when they checked those two guys, I would assume they would already not necessarily completely moved on from the family, but had already moved on from the family Probably still, checking out everything and making sure there wasn't any loose ends. But, I believe that happened shortly after, video came out, because I remember one of them was saying that they said that he had looked like the guy in the video. And so that video had already been out. And so maybe they did rule out Tommaso because they thought this guy didn't have any facial hair, and I'm wrong. That's a possibility. But when I look at this, it just kind of screams, especially this like indention here, that's hair being like pushed down. So I feel like that's probably at very minimum a goatee, if not a beard. What do you guys think in the live chat? Would you guys agree that this person is most likely got a goatee or a beard? Let me know what you guys think. And thank you, Jade355, for your membership for 4 months. Consider being a member. We have a Discord. I just dropped a link in the community post for members. So it's in there. Go check that out. And so I looked at this just to kind of backtrack again, and I saw this lump here, and I was thinking to myself, man, that kind of does look like this guy has hair. It looks like the height of where the hair starts relative to where the forehead is, that's pretty high. Right? That's pretty high. So, this guy probably is an older guy, with his hair a little bit more receding. So the rest of this stuff is what I did with the help of AI. It's AI generated, so it's not going to be any representation of anything 100%. It's just kind of what I was looking at and putting in the information. So I said, all right, put some hair on this guy. What does this guy look like with hair? Kind of interesting. And then I thought, well, maybe he does have like a full beard, like I mentioned. So what does he look like with a full beard? So we added the beard in here. And you know what? I'm going to make this on the big screen. So we added the beard in. And I thought, well, his eyes always looked a little funny, right? His eyes always looked a little weird. I didn't know if they looked distorted from certain angles. I don't know if he's wearing goggles or if he had glasses on, bifocals of some sort, or maybe he didn't, but maybe he had contacts on, and this is a guy that could use glasses. So if this was a guy that was regularly using glasses, this is what he would kind of look like. And so again, this is all AI stuff, so don't take this as fact or anything like that. But I asked it to clean it up and tell me what it would look like as if it was a real person. All right. So if bald, with hair, and then with glasses. And again, this is all AI generated. Nothing to say that this is exactly what this guy looks like. But as you notice, the hairline, look at the bulge of where the hair comes up. Right. That's what I noticed. That's what I told, when I was telling it what to do. ChatGPT and AI and all that other stuff is as good as the information that you put into it. So you got to be really, really detailed. So I was very detailed about what it is that I was looking for. And then what I told it was, because there was some gun owners, right? You had some gun owners, and you had, I think it was just the gun owners that came forward and said that they had seen a lot of licenses and a lot of driver's licenses, and they were looking for somebody who was either, I believe, either of Hispanic or Mexican descent or even Middle Eastern. And so adding the color there, possibly what we're looking at. Again, AI generated, guys. So take that for what it is, right? But the one interesting thing I found about this was there was a world-renowned forensic sketch artist, Lewis Gibson, and she drew what she thought this guy would look like. And this was a couple of months ago. Pretty weird, Pretty weird. I did not make him handsome. I have no idea what he looks like. ChatGPT did that. But this is, I've, higher, hairline, etc. So I don't know. Yeah. I guess if anybody knows anyone that kind of looks like this ish in the area, I mean, this is the image that he came up with, because this is what you can tell, right? It's just this part is what he was saying. I just saw that there was a hair bump, right? So I wanted to add hair to this image. But he's right when he points out that it goes up and then it comes down. Like there's the bridge of the nose and then it comes down. The eyebrows, look at how wide and prominent those are. And again, I do think this guy is also bearded. Because, I mean, he's got an opening here, and I don't think he's wearing something underneath. I mean, he could be. He could have. That would just, I mean, that'd be, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to think about it, but like, what if he had some sort of like mask on underneath the mask? I don't know. I don't know what the purpose of that would be. Maintain sweat. Definitely beard or goatee. That's what I'm thinking. 100% bearded. I would say so as well. And no light reflection from eyeglasses and the IR light on the Nest Cam. Interesting point. Great point there. That is a great point. Now, that was what I was thinking he looks like. No, he's too pointy. Maybe. I mean, this image here and this image here could be the same. Could be. You put a full beard on. Put a full beard on that guy. I don't know. Put some glasses. Now, again, I don't know if he's wearing glasses at night or not, but possibly not, right? But maybe perhaps if he does, right, he could have been wearing contacts at night and on the regular wear glasses, or both, right? And so if you see a guy that kind of looks like this that wears glasses, I think I'd be intrigued by it. My question is, who did Nancy or Savannah make angry enough that would do this to Nancy? Well, I don't think you have to. Sometimes people, it's not anything that anybody does, right? Like if you look at the Idaho case with Brian Kohberger, and those kids did nothing to Brian Kohberger. And yet he went in there in the middle of the night and took their lives in a very horrific manner with a knife that would make somebody feel like it was a personal attack. And it was a fantasy attack. It was fantasy motivated. And so he wanted to feel taking somebody's life away. All right. And so it's one thing to shoot somebody, and another thing to do it with your hands that close and feeling everything that's happening in that moment, right? That's part of his fantasy. When you have certain things like that, where you have some sicko people who have these weird fantasies, and I think very much so that this could be fantasy driven. Sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, even that person that tried to assassinate President Reagan, he did it to impress an actress. No rhyme or reason why anybody would think that would impress her or whatever the case may be. But, some people have some weird things. And so you know, a lot of people, a lot of folks think that maybe perhaps it was because of Savannah, and I wondered that as well. But what if it's not? What if it's just about Nancy? And what if this is just a person who is has these other feelings, and it has nothing to do with Savannah? Albeit, you know, they have a vendetta against the area. Maybe they're upset for some reason or another, and I don't know. They feel they can take. You know, I think there have to be somewhat close to the area. You know, and I know some people are going to say, well, that points to the family, and I understand that, but two things can be right at the same time. It can be in the area, it can be somebody who's somewhat familiar with the neighborhood, you know, whether albeit it be that they live there or they work that area, you know, kind of like what they did with Daly and what they did with Carlos. One guy lived in the area, one guy worked somewhat in the area, maybe even perhaps not an Amazon delivery driver, but you know, I wondered if this person was, you know, possibly involved in security, right? You know, security sales or installation. I wonder if he was upset because I don't know. They didn't want him knocking on doors there. I don't know. But this guy goes comfortably up to the front of the house, right? And there's an image of him without the backpack and without the gun. What made him confident? Why was he just standing there, for one? And two, and that's the one where he doesn't have the backpack. And two, why is he so comfortable at the gate or at the doorbell? Well, we found out here recently that the Nest cameras, if they're recording, they'll be solid green. If somebody picks up the live feed and starts watching, it'll start to blink. And so that person knew that. I felt that's why he was so confident in going up there and messing around and doing whatever it is that he wanted with the doorbell camera, etc. Because he knew that nobody was watching. Maybe that's why he was standing there without the gun and without the backpack, because he was parked off to the side, and he knew that if somebody picked up the live feed while he was standing there, that he'd have to get the heck out of there and run out of there. And well, it's going to be kind of weird running with a gun in your crotch and also a big backpack. So he goes out there and he stands there and he's waiting there to see if somebody picks up. Nobody does. He goes, gets his stuff, and then he comes back. Comfortable in knowing nobody's getting the alerts. Nobody's waking up. So I don't know. I just wonder if this guy, how did he know that? Like, there's only a couple of reasons you would know that about the Nest doorbell camera. You have one, you sold one, or they are your competitor, right? So if you have one, you might be familiar with how it works. If you sold them, like if you worked at Best Buy or something like that, you might be familiar with how they work and the whole recording process. Or if they're your competitor, if you're a door-to-door type salesman or whatnot, who's selling security camera systems, yeah, that would be a selling point, in my opinion. You know, I would use it if I was, I've done sales for quite a few years. I own businesses, etc. When it comes to sales, if I was selling like for ADT or for Vivint or somebody else like that, you damn straight I'm going to use the fact that the Nest indicates or tells people when somebody's watching the live feed. If I don't know if ADT or Vivint, if their system does the same thing, you know, if there's an indicator to the person that's outside that they're being actively watched. I don't know, but if there isn't, right? If there isn't something that says, hey, somebody's watching the live feed, like the blinking light, and I was selling for them, I would definitely be using them. Be like, hey, you know, yeah, you can use those Nest cameras. They're cool until somebody, you know, until they realize that you're not watching, and then they think you can break in. And that would be selling point number one for me. And so those are the three things. Now, I would assume, well, let's go back a little bit. Nancy was asking about, which cameras to use, and she was putting it on the My app or whatever, right? On the neighborhood app. So I guess I don't know if she got that recommendation from family members, but I think if she did, if somebody would have said, hey, use this one, we use it, we love it, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure she's asking, the My Neighborhood app. And so I don't know if her family's familiar with the Nest cameras, et cetera, either. But good question. Did you get to tell AI was related to Nancy Guthrie case? Oh, did I have to tell AI? I did at one point. Let me tell you why. I'm glad you asked that. It's crazy that you asked that, because when I told her to put a beard on it, it said not to, that it wouldn't. And I was like, no, look, this. I'm covering the Nancy Guthrie case. You're not violating. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just trying to see who's under the mask. And then boom, it popped out. I was like, oh, well, thank you. I was in ITR, the interview room, TIR. Yes, I was checking him out. I'm actually going to go through what Chris was saying here in a minute. And so, yeah, for those that are just coming in, Monk's Intrigue, what he did was he did a negative on the on Porch Guy video, and you can see some shadows and shapes and things of that nature. And you can tell some things like the nose, the bridge of the nose, and how his nose goes down, his nostrils, location of his ears, the prominence of his eyebrows. And then you also have this interesting poof right here. This poof that continues up here. Kind of flattens out right here. Did you see that? It flattens. Kind of like maybe he has a bald spot, possibly. I don't know. This is also very difficult to see, so I could just be wrong about it. But, it looks like there's a bulge here. And so what I did was I went a step further from what Monks did. And I asked AI to throw in some hair. And again, this is like a high hairline. Asked her to put on a beard. And then just in case, if they normally wear glasses and just were wearing contacts this night, asked her to throw on some glasses just in case there's somebody that maybe this looks familiar like. And then turn that into a real person here. And then I asked AI to bring it to life. I said, this is a possibly Hispanic Middle Eastern man between 30 and 45 years old. That's where I think this guy is age-wise. The mustache and the beard just kind of scream like older person than younger. And so kind of what we got. And then and again, this is AI, can be completely wrong. If somebody looks like this, I'm not saying it's you. Don't go running and telling people this is who it is, unless they were kind of, missing around the time that Nancy was missing and they've been acting funny. But this is what we were able to kind of do with the shadows of the mask. It's interesting. What do you guys think? Connie becoming the newest member. Thank you, Connie. Oh, Mikey, what's going on, buddy? Thank you for the $2. Happy Father's Day to the dads and the single moms out there. Happy Father's Day. Yes, 100%. Hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. My weekend's been kind of bummed out, guys. A little bit of personal stuff. I'm pretty sure my house was struck by lightning or very close to the other night. So half of my house has power, part of my house don't. My TV, my PlayStation, my VR, my sim racing setup, my work computer, my personal desktop computer in the other room, and quite a few other appliances fried out, including my AC unit. Yes, I live in Texas too, and that fried out. Um, it was crazy. It was actually after the last live I did. We did the live. I went to go play video games. I was playing video games with the guys, and I just hear like this rolling thunder coming through. Whoa, right? And I'm like, holy crap. And I look outside and I can see where, from my living room to my left, I can see outside my backyard, and to my right, I can see just directly through my foyer into, my front glass door. And so I tell the guys, like, dudes, looks like there's a freaking war outside. Like everything is just going crazy. And it's just boom, boom. I mean, I'm just seeing lightning, like it looked like almost daylight was flashing. That's how much lightning was going on. And so to the homies, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna have to jump off. I'm kind of nervous about this. I want to make sure everything's off before something bad happens. And so I shut it off. And the last thing I actually told the guys was, because we were all into this crazy storm here in San Antonio and going kind of West Texas. I was like, guys, you guys know that you can get struck by lightning even when you're in your house. My buddy Jonathan goes, damn it, Danny, I don't even feel safe in my own home. I thought it was hilarious. But what ended up happening was, so I shut off the game, turn off the TV, and about 2 seconds later, the power goes out. And then it comes back on. I'm like, all right, that's interesting. And so I'm like, I'm glad I turned everything off. I probably should have went and unplugged things, but I didn't. And that was my mistake. Brittany had woken up because of the thunder was happening. The dogs, they were getting kind of riled up. So Brittany was coming out of the bedroom when I was about going into the bedroom. And I told her, hey, I'm going to wash up. And then I'm going to go to bed. And she said, all right, I'm going to, just calm down the dogs a little bit more. And I said, all right, that's cool. I'll meet you back outside when I'm done. And so I go into the bathroom and I'm getting ready and I'm checking my phone. I'm looking at it. All of a sudden, boom. And I saw light, and then I saw orange, and I heard the loudest crack. I mean, it wasn't just the boom. It was like this crack. My phone like flew in the air, and I caught it somehow. Power went out. Brittany's running into the room and she's freaking out. She was laying down on the couch, and she said in the living room that she could see a blue glow inside the house, like on the roof and on the ceiling. And so super terrifying. I mean, and like I said, everything shut off, right? And so we're like, holy crap. So we go to the front room, my front office, and I look out the window and I noticed that my neighbor across the street, that they still got power. They still got light. And so I was like, holy crap. They got light. Why don't we? And I start looking around, and I'm looking down the neighborhood, and almost every house has light except us. And so I was like, all right, maybe it's just our breaker. So I was like, screw it. So I run outside in the middle of a lightning storm out to the breaker. I flip the switch, and then power comes back on. So we come in, power comes on. We decide that we're just gonna go lay down and go to sleep. Next morning is when we realized that everything, like half of everything, is just fried. Fortunately, this survived somehow. My computer did, but the rest of my electronics, except for like my main TV did. So, but hey, I got insurance. They're going to be taking care of it. It's just going to take a little bit. Is what it is. But that was one crazy ass situation, guys. I don't mean to curse, but it was wild. And like I said, the whole blue light Oh, and the other thing that was even crazier, right, was there was some things that went off in the house that weren't even plugged in. Right. So we had these little lamps that Brittany got, um, and, and a thermometer. They turned on their own when the glow happened, and they stayed on for a couple of seconds and then turned off. It's incredibly crazy. Incredibly crazy. All right. Well, I'm gonna get back into it. I know you guys weren't here for the our house getting possibly struck by a lightning story. Thank you, Mikey, for gifting 2 Drunk Turkey Show memberships. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mikey. You are the man. And so that's what we're dealing with today. We're dealing with that. So it's been boring without the TV. And then my buddy's got to play Fortnite last night. I didn't. All right, I'm just kind of scrimming through this, and then what I'm going to do now is we're going to be talking about check your breakers. Yeah, I might. I had an AC guy come in, and they went up into my attic, and they said that it's fried. The motherboard fried up. It's freaking crazy. Hey, Nico says my folks had lightning hit their place, had to replace the whole junction box inside the house. The lightning made the wet ground ripple and sling mud under the front porch roof. Oh, that's wild. Poltergeist. It is pretty crazy, man. It was crazy. All righty. So without further ado, let's get into the second half of today's show. We talked about the masked guy with the face under the mask. If you're just tuning in, go check that out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the interview room. We're going to talk about Detective Chris McDonough and their show tonight, where he brought up some interesting points, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that he had mentioned and kind of see how they relate to the abduction and how they fit. First and foremost, I want to say I highly respect Chris, Detective McDonough. I had him on the show. If you hadn't seen that episode, I'd recommend going and checking that out. He's in my opinion, very respected ex-law enforcement officer, detective, who has years of experience and has investigated cases from a citizen standpoint on his channel for multiple years, and has done a great job and brought some great insight. And so I want to talk about what he was talking about, and also kind of give my perspective as well. And so he asked some questions, right? And I wanted to highlight those questions. I also wanted to highlight some of the points that he made. So the first question that he had was, how did they know she was home? She being Nancy. That was the first question that Chris asked. And, it was 1:47 in the morning when he was on scene. Now, I question the time frame that when he's walking up, right? I question whether or not that is legitimately at 2 o'clock or at 1:48 in the morning. Why? Because there's been some calculations done based on the positioning of the moon and the width of the sidewalk and the what is it called? The length of the width, I'm sorry, of the sidewalk. Those things indicate that it was closer to 2:12, which is the time frame that law enforcement say that there's a person detected on camera, right, during the timeline. It's interesting, but I don't know, and I'm not going to come up here and that's not a hill that I'm going to die on and say no, it exactly was. So I'm okay with saying it approximately sometime between 1:45 and 2:12. The perpetrator was there at the front of the house. That's super late. I mean, Nancy lived on her own. I don't think it would take much surveillance to figure that out. I don't think it'd take much surveillance to figure out that her pattern is that she's asleep at a certain time frame. I would guesstimate it's probably earlier than later. And then I would, even on the weekends, especially given her age and mobility and things of that nature, a person picking that time and I think I think that it wouldn't take much to figure if she was home or not, you know, around that. Now, maybe perhaps he was also watching for a period of time, right? You know, maybe he was somewhere in the neighborhood watching. Chris brought up a point that, you know, people in the area are calling in, you know, suspicious cars and things of that nature, getting, you know, streamers arrested, etc. That they're vigilant, that they're seeing things in their neighborhood. Well, I think that could also be a product because something pretty serious happened in the neighborhood. You know, when something like this happens in the neighborhood, neighbors and folks become more vigilant. Uh, you know, for instance, I think it's no surprise that, like in the insurance industry, I'm fairly positive this is the case, but yeah, I would reckon, or I believe that probably you get a lot of people calling about coverages when something happens to somebody they know, or there's a natural event that occurred, right? Like a huge natural disaster. And then you get people like, oh, I didn't think this would happen here. You know, I want to get coverage or et cetera. You know, usually after something happens is when people become more vigilant and become more proactive, um, to do something. I guess it would be reactive than proactive in that moment. But I wouldn't take the behavior of the neighborhood today to be the same as the behavior of the neighborhood before Nancy Guthrie got abducted. And then the question was, why not why not Annie? Why was it Nancy's house and not Annie's house? Well, I think that when you look at what's, you know, who's inside of the house makes a big difference. And we're also, you know, having the assumption that this, you know, is something that is against Savannah, right? That if somebody was trying to harm Savannah, they could have easily have gone after Annie instead. And although I agree that the impact probably would have been the same, you know, on Savannah, I think that the difficulty in which to abduct somebody would be much greater with Annie, given the fact that she has Tommaso in the house. She's also younger and doesn't have those mobility issues. I don't know if she has any animals or dogs or anything like that. So there's other obstacles that take or play a role there when it comes to who are you going to go after versus Annie or versus, um, you know, Nancy. So, I mean, I think that even if your goal was to somehow have an effect on Savannah Guthrie, that you're probably still picking mom based on the possibility of getting away with it. When you have those two options, and the goal is, if that is indeed the goal, to get to Savannah, then I would think then that would you're probably picking Nancy because of the ease in which it would be. Not saying it's easy to do this, or it was easy for this person to do it. I think it's relatively difficult, regardless of any circumstance, to go into a house and to come out and have so many investigating agencies investigating this, and to know a certain amount of details about you, and yet you're still gotten away with this. I struggle to believe that that's the sign of of a of an amateur, or somebody who's doing this for the first time. All righty. So why not Annie? I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's easier to go after Nancy. You had to know how to get there. And this one, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. You know, Chris went out there and he drove around. He drove around at night, and it is extremely dark. Right. Now, what does this mean? This means that somebody has driven around through that area quite a bit. Now, does that mean that they're from the area? It could be. It could be. Does that mean that, you know, this person drove around multiple times to surveil the area to get comfortable, i.e., like Brian Koberger did in the Idaho case, where he was in the neighborhood 23 different times on 23 different occasions with, you know, there for multiple, you know, time for quite a while. I don't know if it was multiple hours, but he was there for quite a while, within 100 meters. You know, could this person have done the same, figure out a path to drive there? 100%. Here's the thing, right? If this is a person who's not very familiar with the area and they needed their phone for GPS, right? And they're not from the area, Well, I think that they're gonna stick out, right? When it comes to the geofencing that the FBI has done. So we also have to take into consideration sometimes as well is what the investigation or the investigators have done, what information they should have gathered from that information, and how likely is it that law enforcement already know the answer to this question? And given the fact that an arrest has not been made and the only searches that have happened seem to be dead ends, would lead us to believe that they probably haven't panned out very well up to this point. All right. So I think those are the things that we can deduce if we go past, just the surface. And so I do agree that this person would have had to have known that area fairly well or have been in that area, would be also fairly well. Now, does that mean that they live there? Maybe. Does that mean that they've driven through there multiple times? Maybe, possibly. Now, if they're there multiple times, you would assume they would stick out, right? This, especially if they're not from that area, right? If they're not, because here's what I think they would do. This is just my assumption: is they would do a advanced timing records, for those days and nights leading up to the abduction. They're probably going to put into a spreadsheet these numbers, cross-reference them with people that live in the area. And then you have these other numbers that stick out that aren't from people that live in the area that you can't account for. You have their phone number, so I'm sure you can look up who those phones belong to. All right. However, let's just say you can't, once you get to the ones that don't live in the area, how many times were they in the area? Right. So it shouldn't be it's time consuming and it might take a while. I don't think it would take, a day 140. I don't think it would take that much time at this point, especially with the speed of computers and things of that nature, where you can put things in a spreadsheet and then figure out, once you enter the data in there, like, all right, well, how many times does this specific number pop up, time and when, stuff like that. So, if it's somebody that's not from the area and somebody who's not familiar, I think they would stick out. I think they would come out in that. Until somebody from the area or somebody who is turning their phone off. Now, if they're turning their phone off, this is super well thought out. Even when they're doing their surveillance stuff, that's well thought out. I don't know. And then Chris goes, how many times did this person surveil the area? That's a good question. I think he would have had to a few times. Now, what makes me think that this person is familiar with the area, but maybe not intimate with Nancy, meaning like is not a immediate family member, somebody that lived there, somebody that had, that was very, very familiar with the home / the property, is the fact that they left the camera behind, that they didn't destroy or damage, that if the camera at 212, if it's not the doorbell camera in the front, then that's the camera they captured, possibly the movement of this person at 2:12 a.m. And that's the one on the back in the backyard. Now, somebody who is very intimate or has been there so many times and knows about this house, like a brother-in-law, etc., I think they would have been familiar with that camera. Also, the fact that they had the back doors propped open. Back doors propped open, and we know that there's blood going out the front. That means that's your exit, right? The blood going out the front is your exit. There would be no reason if they entered the front to then go prop open the back door and exit out the front. That doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. And so to prop open the back doors tells me that was their entry point. Now, most people, the entry and the exit point is the same when it comes to like burglars and intruders. So for Nancy, as the abductor, I think that their plan was to come in the front and out the back, come in the back and exit out the back. Something changed. My best guess, since there was supposedly no sign of an assault and that the rest of the house was clean, is that he struggled with her mobility and he underestimated her mobility. I'm saying that's so weird. And so he underestimated her. And maybe perhaps she also resisted a little bit, which if it was family members, why would she resist? Even if you went in there with a mask, once you got into the house, all you got to do is take the mask off, walk up to her and say, hey, something happened to Annie. We need you to come. She needs you, blah, blah, blah. And walk her out. Right? Makes no sense. So, the fact that she resisted, the fact that there was a change in plans, probably because there was a, underestimation of her mobility. And again, this person has stalked the area and watched the area. I think he would have planned where he was going to park there for some time. I think it was all part of his plan. So it went against his plan, and yet he still managed to get away because he didn't make any mistakes. So let's see. So then they go into, and what Chris, from my opinion, what he's trying to do here is there's the criminal triangle, right? Where you have means, opportunity, and motive, right? And I think what Chris is trying to do is point to the possibility of means, right? And opportunity here. And so what he's doing here is he's talking about there's this problem area inside of Tucson, which is about 6 miles away from both Nancy and Annie's house. And that this park has a bunch of criminal activity that goes on there. It's called Estevan Park. It's a homeless spot. It's near Annie's studio. It's down the street. And so what he's trying to allude to here is that if it wasn't Annie and Tommaso, do they have the means of hiring somebody that wouldn't come up on a because like somebody that you had to contact, right? Somebody that you had to like make phone calls, text messages to, etc. Because you have to account for those things. If this was a hired on thing, how did they get in touch with somebody who was willing to do this? Right. So that answers that question. Then there's the financial aspect. Maybe perhaps they know this person, they're close with them, say something to the effect like, hey, do this, we'll get some money, and at the end we'll pay you. So that's why there's not they're doing this with perhaps somebody who's homeless or somebody who's on drugs, who will do anything for, a fix, so to speak. Right. And so this is what I think he's alluding to. He didn't directly say this on his show, but this is what they were kind of, my opinion, at least, what he's alluding to. And so that maybe perhaps that's why there's not a paper trail, there's not a financial means there. It's because they had the close proximity there. Then he goes into that that this person must have surveilled the area, and there just so happens to be a car lot right next door as well. To me, when a story gets crazier and crazier, I start to back away from it, right? So for this to make sense, I mean, what it was kind of alluding to, and I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying he's wrong at all. I have no idea. But it sounds like he's saying that maybe perhaps Annie and Tommaso made an agreement with somebody who was maybe not homeless, but criminally involved in that area. And that there was a means of having multiple vehicles so that they could go and do their surveillance, because the person obviously would have had to have known how to not only get there, but known their way in and out of there. If there's somebody who's not from the area, from 6 miles away, etc., well, they should stick out like a sore thumb on a geofencing. And so I don't know how you answer that one then. But how do you answer that one? The guy that's surveilling the area, because the FBI has the geofencing, right? The FBI has geofencing. And so if this guy was not that familiar with the area, but knew the address and that's all he knew, maybe some information about the lay of the land, not a whole lot, but just some, enough, enough to try to, that these people were trying to get her out of the house for some reason to do something. All right. Okay. And so, so this person goes to the car lot. Now, here's the thing. I mean, this car lot, I doubt they're just going to be renting out or even allowing people to go on test drives, one, overnight, two, without people in the vehicle, especially if they're from the area and they know that, hey, man, Joe and, Blow Joe, what's his face, dude over here that's doing crack in the alleyway. He wants to test drive a car without anybody else with him. Let's just give him the keys. I just don't think that's how it's going to work. You know what I mean? And, I just think that if there was like somebody who was like that's like that, right? Like into drugs or homeless or whatever the case may be, I just don't see them pulling off this crime that's being investigated by multiple law enforcement agencies and not and not getting caught. And then, it was an interesting thing that Chris also said on the show. He said that because he was out there talking to these folks, and kudos to him. He's going out there and he's doing the groundwork, right? Which that's what he's saying. You can't discredit until you go out there and talk to him. And from what he understands, nobody's talked to these folks, and so he's going out there and doing it. And I don't know what the result is. Maybe perhaps somebody will say something that is interesting. But he mentioned that they'll do anything. Some of these folks do. You'll be surprised what they do for a cold bottle of water. I mean, that's $1.2 million $1 million reward out there. Yeah, I just feel that if somebody, one of these homeless persons, or if there was even this a drug guy, right, or a druggie, or a drug seller, drug dealer. I don't know, change of behavior. These folks, I don't know. I don't know if they would still stay under the radar. Now, I think there's a couple of camps here, right? There's the camp of that this was somebody close to the family, or close to Nancy, possibly family. There's the camp that this was a wrench attack, very well organized, some sort of hit piece. I don't think I align with any of those two right now. I think I align in a third camp that this is going to be somebody who we don't know, who's not come up in the media, who's not part of the cast. Let me put it that way. When I was talking about the Brian Koberger case, one of the things that I noticed was that anytime somebody came up, whether they spoke in an interview, whether they their name came up in a document, or somebody brought up their name in an interview, or somebody looked up, members of, Sigma Chi, so to speak, that they all had to play some sort of role, or even the folks that are in the Grub Truck video, that they all had some sort of role in the murders. Like, this was a cast. These are a cast and crew. This is the only people that exist in that town, and this is the only persons that it could be. And I was one of the first ones that was saying, I don't know. I mean, initially I thought maybe perhaps it could have been one of the ex-boyfriends, Jack DeCore. But as the days went on, and turned into weeks, I was like, I don't think it's him, because if it was, it shouldn't be that hard to figure out that it was him. Crimes of passion are sloppy. There's not a lot of forethought into it, etc. And plus there was cameras and all these other things and technology. I was like, man, there's no way they would have found out that this was the guy pretty quick. And they were able to clear him pretty quick. But, and so I was like, you know what, this is probably going to be somebody that's out of the circle, somebody we don't know. It's going to be a name we've never heard of. And I think this is going to be the case here. And if I'm wrong, I'm not the kind of person that's going to say, no, there's no way I can be wrong. I'm going to follow the evidence. I'm going to, whatever happens, happens. Right. But Today, I don't think this is somebody that they're aware of. Now, here's the biggest clue to that. If there is DNA and they're waiting on an IgG from several samples, and law enforcement is confident in one of these samples, right, then that is absolute proof by 100% that they have no idea and they've not come across this person yet. And you want to know why? Here's why. Because in order to create an IgG, you need an STR profile. That STR profile is pulled from DNA, whether that's from, touching it, saliva, blood, whatever. You get an STR profile. That STR profile to do the IgG is turned into an SNP. And what that is what is searched when you like swab your cheeks and stuff and you send it off to Ancestry, etc. If you get a name, let's just say the name John Doe comes up tomorrow and law enforcement has this DNA and they have, reasonable belief that this might be the person. All they have to do is either get a warrant for the guy's DNA or surreptitiously pull warrant from him, secretly pull DNA from him, either by a trash pull, etc. You don't need to do the IgG. The only time you do the IgG is when you have no idea who the person is, because if you have any inclination of who that person is, you just go pull their trash. You pull their trash and then you check the DNA against the STR profile. And boom, you got your guy. That's all you got to do. So if in fact that they're waiting on this, that means that every single person that they have suspected that they have pulled DNA from does not match. Does not match. Now that's if and only if they got some DNA that is strong, that they believe that is the person involved, right? Because if you don't have DNA, if the place was just clean and the only DNA you have, let's just say they do an IgG and all of it, and every single person it comes back to, one person was in the Uber that Nancy was in before she got in, so you can kind of guesstimate that maybe perhaps that Nancy got transferred DNA. By that means one person was an Amazon delivery person, their boss or the transport, for the person or whatever, right? That they had came in contact with their mail at some point. Another person is somebody else that maybe perhaps Nancy had interacted with earlier that week, maybe a doctor or something that she went to the doctor's office, or the nurse came in and the nurse had their grandma's DNA on their shoulder. I'm assuming she had like some sort of dialysis or something like that, given what her medical history. And so, if a nurse came in and that nurse was, just gave a big old hug to grandma, now has grandma's DNA on her person, and that DNA somehow got in that house and they cleared all of it, then, one, that says that this guy probably cleaned up after himself, and two, it's a colossal waste of time and resources. So I'm hoping that's not the case. And so if they do have some sort of DNA on something, but they just, let's just say the guy's not from here, right? And all of the relatives that they need to go and get DNA from aren't in the country, or there's just not enough matches because, this guy comes from a country that maybe perhaps people aren't, going out of their way to do genetic testing, whether they be for financial reasons or whatever. And so those could be some of the hiccups. But if that's the hiccup that they have, then that tells you without a shadow of a doubt, it's nobody that they have in front of them. So I'll say that. All right. So Estevan Park was a homeless spot near Annie's studio, hired someone, and then there was an auto dealer. And so again, we'd have to, like, the story just gets really big. So this would have to be somebody who they hired, who's not from the area, who was traveling into the area is not seen on camera because they are using multiple vehicles from dealerships. I just don't like the extent that this has to go into for it to be this to be the case. Now, again, I'm not saying it's not. Um, it could be, but I'm just, there's some other problems too. Like if this is like a homeless or druggie, how are they getting in and out without leaving a tremendous amount of DNA behind? And if you have a homeless or druggie person, usually you have criminal records that go along with it. Now, I'm not necessarily certain they're going to be doing DNA on all of those, but on some of those offenses, if they have a criminal rap sheet, I would assume they would. Right. Let's see. He goes on to say that the distance between this location and this house was 5.9 to 5.8 miles. Earlier he mentioned how difficult it was to drive around there. So the person has to be familiar. If the person's not that familiar and having to drive that area and drive back and forth. And again, this is why he brings up the auto dealership. But this person would have had to have driven back and forth for there not to be a digital footprint that night. Without his, he would have had to have gone out there without his phone on, unless he's driving a vehicle that has GPS, which is very well plausible. And I don't know if that information is easily retrievable from, law enforcement perspective. Can you pull GPSs from cars, just driving in the area? Probably not. I think you'd have to have possession of the vehicle first and then, check its GPS locations. And I think that's the way it works. So that could be why you're not capturing. This guy's using his GPS on his vehicle. Let's see. The auto lot could be how the perpetrator went multiple times. I don't know about that. And then they talk about multiple Walmarts in the area near Annie's house. My assumption is that there would have been some searches. And real quick, guys, we got 721 people in here. Let's get the likes up. I think we're at 326 likes. Let's get it up to 500, guys. Let's get to 500 likes. I would appreciate that. Please, guys, please. Thank you so much. It gets the algorithm going. And if you're watching this on the replay crew, please also hype the video. I'd truly appreciate it. It really gets things going in the right direction. So I doubt that the perpetrator purchased his items in a Walmart nearby. Why? Those are the first places that law enforcement are going to look at. They know what the name brand and the type and model of the jacket, of the backpack, and possibly even the holster that he has. It would not be very difficult based on the SKU numbers or SKU to backtrack all the purchases of those items. You cross-reference who's purchased those. Now, again, it might take some time, but you put this into a computer, I'm sure it's not going to be that long. It'll give you a spreadsheet of who purchased, and this includes cash deals too. And so with the cash stuff, you probably have to go in there and, you have date and time and which register. Shouldn't be that difficult to pull in and find the video for that transaction of who purchased these items. And so I just think that if this guy did in fact purchase it at Walmart, that should be an avenue to lead to a suspect that shouldn't take 140 days. I'm assuming it's going to take some time, but given today's technology and the speed in which you can do certain things, I don't think it'd be out of the realm of possibility if you put this information into like a spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet. It'll tell you how many times or, a specific person purchased any of these items, et cetera, cash purchases, et cetera, across the board. And so I just think that it wouldn't take very long to narrow it down if this person purchased this stuff there. So that's why I think, and I wonder, because, some people do this, they'll purchase things like when they're on clearance. There's a store here called Ollie's. You can go in there, purchase things that are like $12, $13. Checking on Amazon, they're selling for like $25-$30. And some people, they go and buy a ton of this stuff, turn around, sell it on Amazon or eBay or whatever, and make a profit. I think it's possible and probably more likely given the investigation, because, yeah, we can look at the stuff and say, yeah, he's wearing things from Walmart. He could have purchased it at Walmart. But given the fact that they haven't caught this guy in this amount of time or having any inkling of who this person is, right? And this amount of time, knowing that information, they know that too. Law enforcement's not like if you called, their investigators tomorrow and say, hey, did you guys know that he's wearing stuff from Walmart? They're not going to be like, oh my God, we never knew that. No, they know. And they've investigated. And so, at this point, I would assume that they would have investigated it. And if they haven't, the guy either purchased it somewhere well outside of Arizona, or he bought it on the secondary market. That's my opinion on that. I strongly believe that that's what he did. Was he either bought it on the secondary market or he purchased it somewhere else, far away? You know what I mean? Oh, there's Ollie's out there in Ohio. That's awesome. I guess they're nationwide. But yeah, you can go to Ollie's. There was like my wife was telling me about it. She's like, look at these, because we purchased the water hose, and she's like, man, if you go and get these on Amazon, they're X amount. And then that's when I put 2 and 2 together. I was like, man, I bet you a bunch of these folks are doing that. That's a pretty smart thing. I mean, I'm not gonna hate on it. You do it. Kudos to you. It's a hustle. I'm glad Chris and Karen are there now. Yeah. Now they went out there and they put in a pretty good perspective. Also, what he mentioned was the front of the house, that it was super small. Now I have speculated that the guy parked in the driveway, one for hiding the vehicle. I had Elena on from Crime Scene Collective, and she was out there on scene, and she was talking about how it's really small there, and if you parked up front, it's going to be noticeable. Now, parking on the driveway is going to be hard to see. And when we looked at the positioning of where this person's stepping onto the sidewalk, approaching the doorbell camera, he's definitely coming from the side of the house, which he would have definitely had to have parked at the driveway for. And so I thought about, I just think that that's the direction he's coming from, which is this from the left side here. This is a lone wolf who wanted revenge on Savannah. Savannah has security. Nancy does not. It could be. I don't think we can also put it beyond the realm of possibility that this guy might have something against Nancy. Maybe he tried to sell her an alarm system and she didn't buy it. And he took it personal. The perp is close by, no footage of leaving the neighborhood, went straight into a garage, I feel like. It's possible. It's definitely possible. I don't put it past that this guy's local. I don't put it past this guy is close by. I don't put it past this guy is very familiar with the area. And I go in there with like maybe perhaps somebody who's done tech jobs or something like that, maybe door-to-door sales. Those type of folks are familiar with the area, familiar with neighborhoods, familiar with the technology. I don't know. Did you see that Kalila is changing his plea to guilty on Tuesday? I smell a deal. Well, here's the thing. If there was a deal done, then there would have been an action already, right? So, for instance, you don't get the deal before the information, right? Because what if the information don't pan out, right? So if there's a deal in place, whatever it is that he had to provide for the deal is already in law enforcement's hands, and they deemed it good enough to give him a deal, and that he felt confident enough to take said plea deal and change his verdict. There's been no action, so I doubt it. So what I think the deal is probably a lighter sentence for himself for copying for what he did. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's a plea deal that's going to result in his involvement in the actual abduction. I hope that makes sense. Again, if it is a plea deal, it's probably so that he can get a lighter sentence and not go through court. eBay or some other places. That's what I'm thinking. He probably bought this secondhand. I don't think he bought this stuff firsthand. Let's see. Put a couple of stars, guys. I'll be answering your questions. That's what I have for you tonight. So the rest of the show will be y'all's questions. Put a couple of stars so I know you're talking to me. And we'll be here for probably another 20 minutes or so, 15 minutes. Let's see. Again, this is what, Monks and Treat came up with as far as the facial. I see a little bit of a lump here. You can see it right here. It doesn't follow the natural curve. And then there's a little bit of a lump up here, a little point, a little bit of flatness. And then it kind of even sticks out further this way. I definitely think this guy has hair. Possibly a beard. And if he typically wears glasses, making him look somewhat real. I have a question. Do you think they're ever going to find Nancy's body? If they find the suspect within a certain amount of time frame, probably. I mean, maybe. It just kind of depends. What kind of vehicle they drive. If there's GPS on it. If he had his phone on him. If there's shovels, things of that nature. I'm assuming if he buried her, perhaps. There's ways to determine that, but I think they're going to find him first before they'll find her. I think that'll be I think they'll find him before they find her. And I really do hope they find him sooner than later. I'm concerned. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm concerned about this case being solved anytime soon. The behaviors and actions of law enforcement aren't indicative of ones that are confident that this is going to come to a close pretty soon. And so I just think that this is going to end up being a case that goes cold. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I might be wrong. His nose looks tiny. It does look smaller here. It is one thing that let me go to the original one that Monks agreed on was that there was like a bridge, and then there was like an indentation, and then it goes down, and that it could be pressed a little bit. Now, I saw people putting on this mask. This seemed like a very loose fitted mask. It didn't seem like one that was going to really press down on a lot of things. So I would agree that it's not the largest nose in the world, but I think it may be a little bit bigger than what it's portraying here. That does look like a smaller nose. Lower ears. And so that's even what AI was able to do with it. Oh, of course. Babs goes, appreciate you answering my question even when someone doesn't give me. Of course. Now, I do have some folks who I need a Birdie coming in with their membership for 12 months. Thank you, Birdie. And congratulations on your team winning the championship. I am not a sore loser most of the time. Now, if it was the Steelers, I'd probably be more hurt. Let's see. And then Anna comes in with gifted one drunk turkey show membership. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate you. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I try to be. And this is what I think that, based on the information, they said that the guy may have had some Hispanic or Mexican or maybe Middle Eastern descent. And so possible, again, not sure, not 100%, just kind of my own little rendering. In the image of him facing the camera with the light on his mouth, there is a huge lump beside his nose, almost like he has two layers on. I thought about that. Could he be wearing two types of masks? Now, the one thing that bothers me about it is that none of them cover his mouth and nose, right? Both of them have openings. If he's wearing that, does he have an opening on his face, nose, just his mouth and eyes? Just his mouth. Why am I scrolling up? It's right here. Yeah, it's just the mouth. But both of them are open in the mouth. That's weird. It could be. I don't know. It definitely could be. I just don't understand why he would wear two masks and keep the mouth open. Obviously, he had the bite light, and so that was planned. But I don't know. I did. I put between 30 and 42. And maybe that's what you'll get, but I don't know. It follows the right hairline, follows the nose, the indentation, the protruding eyebrows, the nose, the mouth location, large ear location. It's about right. I would say this one's more accurate. It looks a little bit lower. This looks a little bit higher than what. This is what he came up with just the outlining and drawing where the facial features were. Oh, this is only in the Midwest region? Interesting. Yeah, less jail time is all. That's what I'm thinking too. My theory is that the perp plans were in and out, back door. You drop door open so that there wouldn't be noise open and shut. Then the neighbor dog started barking. He waited 40 minutes, decided to go out the front. Maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe. I can see that, somebody being outside, could that have been a reason to change your plans? That could be. I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, I went back and forth with the flowers, right? And that's what I was thinking, like, the flowers on the doorbell camera. I feel like that's a message. But what if it's it's not about Savannah. It's about Nancy. Maybe it is something about Nancy. I don't know. We got that one. Oh, thank you, Afton, for gifting Frunk 5 drunk. I think I'm drunk. 5 Drunk Turkey Show memberships. Thank you, Afty. You're amazing. I appreciate you so much. Can I do a side by side with this and Tommaso? I mean, see, here's the thing with this one. There's a lump here. This guy has hair. This guy definitely has hair. I don't think Tommaso has hair. You know, I used to do the whole Mr. Chew thing. For those that know, you know, and I would put a mask on, and me and Tommaso have the same issue. And long story short, I don't got no lump like that. I'm telling you guys too much about me. Footprints, not shoe prints. I think there's some shoe prints. Let's see. Let me pull it up real quick. Oh, and if you put a couple of stars, I'll pull those up most of the time so that I know you're talking to me. Sometimes there's a lot of conversation in between everybody on the channel. And so let me pull up my images real quick. Oh, I have it somewhere here. Here it is. Here it is. Check this out. All right, so you have an unusual blood stain here. Now, this here, there's some ridge edges, and a lot of people think maybe this is a cane, maybe this is something else. But look, there's also some ridges up here. This is also blood that wasn't there. Like, this person didn't step on blood. This was blood that was in the bottom of the shoe. It's a heavy amount of blood. For there to have been blood that was there, that was left behind there, there would be an indication of more blood there. So where's this blood most likely coming from? There's a mat right here. They probably stepped on. This mat probably has some stronger amount of blood on it that they stepped on. Then right here, and I think I got a different angle of it. There's the same triangular look here on here. And then it travels here. Now you have this line here, and then this movement like that. What this is most likely, as you can see, this one's the most prominent. It's less like, and you know, this is as the person steps away, the amount of blood at each step is lessened. And so you can kind of see the short steps that are made. Now, I don't know if there's any shoes unaccounted for Miss Guthrie. It sounded like she went out there barefoot. The blood drops being 90 degrees tell me that this person wasn't moving very much. There's not a lot of directionality to it. This person was walking fairly slow, not indicative of a person carrying her. You know, I know a lot of people say, well, there's 1 or 2 people carrying her. If that was the case, the blood drops would be more spread apart because she would have been moving at a much faster pace because there's 2 people carrying her. Also, the blood drops wouldn't be straight down. They would have some directionality to them, given the direction of travel that they're going. So for it to be this amount of drops and this short period of space, plus the footsteps like this, to me are an indication that this person was helping her walk, but walking probably side by side with her, was not carrying her. This probably guy lacked the physical strength to do so. And so, and then you also have, let's see. So this is where I think the guy parked and then came this direction. Let's see. Because you have this rock wall and stuff. So he would have approached, if he would have parked like right here, All right, let's just say he would have parked here and then approached this way. One, he couldn't have approached from the side of the house where I think he did, because there's this rock wall right here. And so he would have ended up, let me see if I can find it. I have so many pictures. So he would have ended up like over here and coming out in front of the camera, not off to the side. And so I strongly suspect he parked right here, probably backed in, ready to, probably with the side door open, walked out this way, came around. Because if you park anywhere here, you see this rock wall here, right there. It extends over here. At night, good luck walking up with that. And why do I think that? Let me find the video. So his first step, you know what I think I got still images. Oh, this is what I wanted to show you. So you see the stepping stone here and the stepping stone there. His first step is right here. That stepping stone is right behind it. Let me see if I have, all right, here it is. See, his first step is on the edge of the sidewalk, right? Off the side of the wall here. That stepping stone is behind him. Stepping stone, first step, second step. His first step is still there. You can still see that the stepping stone is well behind him. And then that's the second, this is the third. And then the fourth step is him on the sidewalk, right? So there's a stepping stone. His first step is right here. And he's coming from this direction. And so no way is he coming from the front, right? He would have been seen on camera a lot earlier as well if he was walking. He gets captured right here because he's coming across and the camera's finally capturing him right here after he's no longer blocked from this side of the wall. So as soon as he gets into frame, camera starts initiating motion, he's coming from the side. Walking this way. So coming this direction. No way did he come around this way. No way did he park here. Like you could still see part of that rock wall right here. Just makes no sense if he was coming in from that direction. And if he was walking up here, we would have seen him on camera probably around here, not well over here. Okay. And there's no blood here on the ground. Oops, wrong button. So there's no blood on the ground. This is an indication that this was done. Nancy's still inside of the house. They have her heart rate pacemaker connected to her phone. So she's definitely in the house. She's alive at this point. So, oh, here it is. So this is where we think part of it is a shoe. I don't know if I have the video here. All right, not the video, the picture of the other side of this piece of blood right there. That looks like a shoe. Oh, and this is definitely, in my opinion, aspirated, her facing down. So also another indication that there wasn't two people that were carrying her out, because if there was, when you carry somebody out, they're going to be, you're going to carry somebody from underneath their arms, and then you're going to pick up their feet. So they're going to be facing up. All right. So there's no way that the aspirated blood is going to go down unless they're like awkwardly carrying her facing down, which is not only awkward for her and probably very painful, but awkward to hold her in that position and walk out with. So doubt that's the case. And this is the camera that was forgotten by the perpetrator, which was, in my opinion, an indication that this person wasn't familiar with all the cameras in the house. And why would he if he didn't have access to the backyard here? If all he did was drive up the front? Look the way he did to the light that was there. And he didn't do that to the camera. So these are some of the images that we have. I thought I had a few more that were interesting. Let's see. You know what is interesting? So you see right here, it's like the mustache stops right here because this opening continues. Right? You see the darkness here? It doesn't continue. It's weird, huh? And then this right here, it just looks weird because like you have the top of his eyelid and then it's right on top of his eyelid. Like it's like touching the top of his eyelid. I mean, I guess depending on the angle, your eyebrow can get that close. I don't know. I just felt like his eyebrows would be up here. So this always kind of bothered me. And then like this guy looks like he has some huge eyes. They like almost fill the entire eye socket. I just thought maybe he I had on glasses or something, but maybe not. Ah, so this is bounced up like that because it's on top of the collar of the sweater. So that's why it's bounced up. He may not have the beard I thought he did. Because that was the other thing I thought. I was like, maybe he had like a turtleneck, but I don't know, you know, and that could have caused that shadowiness. See here, it looks more, you can see more of the mustache and the lips. This almost looks, you see that right here? Now, it could be just an illusion based on these little dots and the pixels. It almost looks like his nose is a little crooked. You see this like bend right here? Definitely doesn't look like he has like a giant nose either. You see how the black part comes here, and then even right here it looks like there's black right here. Maybe he is wearing two masks. Why would he wear two masks? Maybe he is bald. Bald people sweat, man. But I don't think that would bulge up like that, like where it does too. It's like perfectly for hair. And even this, look at how wide it is. And there's even like a little of an indention right here. Y'all see that right here? And there's just like a wideness. I feel like if he was bald, there wouldn't be this squaredness right here. I don't know. Anthony Seth Burroughs. I'm not sure who that is. I'll look him up. It's a fugitive. As somebody who's wanted. I mean, could be. Got an interesting nose. That's the one thing that kind of sticks out. Could be. Does that look like a guy? Ear is lower than the eyes. I don't know. I don't know anything about this guy. I don't know where he was last seen or what he's doing. But he's from Tucson, so that's interesting. Let me check that out real quick. Please hit the like button, guys. I'd appreciate it. Oh, that was exactly what I was what I was pointing out to you, where I was like, his nose looks lumpy. You're absolutely right there, Mike. That's what I was actually pointing out to. Thank you, Robert. Happy Father's Day to you as well. Just saw your message. Let's see. Okay. He shaved his beard before he went to Italy. But I think we saw him like shortly afterwards, right? Drunk. I'm not him. I'm in Texas. I can easily prove where I was. I also don't have that weird bridge thing that he has. Let's see. I'm going to go through these. Did you see aerial footage of the front yard after the crime scene? Investigators were there and see all these black marks. They used Leuco crystal violet. There's a hell of a lot more blood in that yard. In the yard? I've not seen that. Can you email me if you have images or videos or things of that nature? I've not seen it. I would definitely like to see that. Please. Email is going to be at drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Nancy was leaning over, being assisted leaving her front door, and at least two perpetrators. Well, I mean, here's the thing. If there was two people, why would they need somebody to prop open the door in the back? Or why would they need a prop for the back door? Two, why was she bleeding at all? I mean, you would assume that two people could control her. She had mobility issues. They wouldn't need to assault her. Not saying that, just because they don't need to, I mean, they need to take her either, and they did, right? And so maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not discrediting that there was two people involved. I think it's possible. I think two people, there'd be some conversation. Somebody would have said something. One of these people would have said something. And if somebody got off and, because they were afraid they were going to say something, now we'd have a missing person also. And so it gets kind of messy there, but it's possible. I would like to see evidence of it. Like if they, law enforcement came forward and said that we have two different types of shoes, and blood prints or whatnot, then that would definitely point in that direction. Um, I'm not so certain right now, but I don't discredit it. I don't know. Um, I would say two people for me right now. My mind's like a 35 percenter, right? So it's more than 25%. But I think it being a sole person is probably around the 65%, 70% range. You know what I mean? Is where I think, and I'm not saying it's either one or the other. Well, I guess it is. It's either one person or more than one. So I would say it's probably about 70% one person, 65% one person, and 30 to 35%, maybe perhaps two people for me in my mind today. And so I wouldn't be overly surprised if there was multiple people involved. I would just think that at this point, I don't know. Ellie also failed to notice what? Notice what? You think it's a wheel track? Wheel track, maybe. It could be. I feel like a wheel track would be we would definitely be able to see it because it would and there would be an exact spacing, right? So let me pull it up real quick. I don't have it no more. But there should be an exact spacing because of the wheel rolling, right? So it'll be like the one way you would tell is like, all right, every 5 inches exactly is when this comes out because it's on the wheel itself. So when I look at it, it doesn't appear to me to be exact. So this step here and this step here is not a full tile like this one to this one is. And in fact, the wheel would have had to have turned and gone further away. So because of that, I mean, it could be a wheel, but I would expect it to be like exact spacing if it was the wheel. I don't think I see that here, but it could be. She could have jumped up or moved around, which would have manipulated the wheel. So maybe perhaps it's not exact. So, I mean, there's the possibility there. It's definitely a possibility. Because that's one of the things that me and Steve had spoken about. Steve being from True Crime Web, he's a former CSI investigator. I asked him, I was like, could this be tread? Because it does look like it could be. It could be tread from a tire. But the one thing that makes me wonder if it's not, it's just that it's not 100% equal spacing. Yeah, I was looking at it, actually. I think I was bringing it up. I don't know if this is far in advance, but I was looking at the pictures before I saw that one. I was like, man, his nose does look weird. I don't know if that's where I have it here. Maybe I already passed it. But yeah, I did. Yeah, we were looking at that a minute ago. It was pretty crazy. Oh, man, that was 15 minutes ago. That's kind of what I felt like too. That they were frames. I thought that initially. And then, you know what? Let me go back to this image real quick where his head looked a little square. Because there was a little bit of an indentation right here. And an indentation right here. Now, this is the AI rendering trying to get like color behind it. But I was like, man, his head looks a little squared up here. And there's an indentation on the side of his head. Could he be wearing glasses under there? That's possible. That's possible. Good point, guys. Here it is. Well, that's not it, but this is the lumpy part. Definitely looks like there's something lumpy there. Definitely does. Bulbous nose. I hope I said that right. He could be. He definitely could be wearing a mask. There. I don't think that's his eyebrows. Is essentially what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's his eyebrows, and his eyes look weird. They look magnified, like he's wearing glasses. That's kind of the way I felt since the beginning, to be honest with you. Let's see. Why doesn't I look STU? Like, I'm not sure. Put a couple of stars. So I know you guys are talking with me. $1,000,000. That's $1 million. Why somebody would talk to. See, two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. But yeah, but now you have an interesting missing person that happened right after Nancy Guthrie disappeared. You know, that's to me, that's, you know what I'm saying? You have somebody gone missing shortly after Nancy Guthrie disappeared. You know, this person would have to have family members. This person have loved ones who are missing them. You know, they obviously would have probably kept this secret from them, but they've gone disappeared. And, you know, I would assume that law enforcement would be like, hey, this guy disappeared shortly afterwards. And let's just say he matches the height and weight. All right, where was he? I mean, I would assume anybody that disappeared shortly after would be looked at. Are they involved somehow? And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're also like a victim, but could they have been the person who committed this crime, who's on the run, who's taken off, who's left because they committed this crime? It doesn't necessarily have to be because they've been deceased. But yeah, I just think that you have now two crimes, two things, and I think it would have come in, you know, I just think that it would have been easier to get him. I know Turkey ain't the perp, but pointing out a mask on him, well, 10,000 other people. I agree. A lot of people would look like this person with a mask on because this is what he looks like. Blood thinners, paper cut, complete for days. And that's true too. That it may not have been a situation where she was like assaulted or injured in a manner that like she was struck or something. I mean, it could have easily been like he was walking around, they bumped into something and it cut her. Like if they bumped into some furniture. And there's some images of her arms and they look kind of bruised up and stuff. And I think that has to do with like her dialysis and her medical conditions and stuff. And you know, I wonder if she cut that, if that would lead to excessive bleeding, blood thinners, how that has an effect as well is interesting. Daniel, do you think or not interesting, but could play an effect? Do you think the FBI has given Nanos pertinent information, but he is holding back from telling us? Oh, 100%. 100%. Now, I don't think that it's like a situation where he's keeping it from us, like just to keep it from us. I think that there's a lot of information that they have that they're keeping from us. Yeah, I strongly suspect that the timeline isn't 100% accurate. And so I definitely 100% think that there's stuff that they're keeping close to the vest. Now, is it stuff that the FBI wishes that would come out? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. They put out the stuff about the video, right? That way we could see what this guy looked like, and it was the FBI that put it out, not Nanos. So, kind of an indication of maybe stepping over him. You know what I mean? Because he would have, you know, I would have assumed that Nanos would have been. Why would he not want it out there, right? I don't know. But he put it out there. You know, the FBI did. And without them, there's also been some statements there back and forth. So the FBI and the Pima Sheriff's Department, there's clearly a rift between certain parts of it. right? I'm not going to say the entire FBI or that they're not working together, but there's clearly some disagreement between, especially Cash Patel and Sheriff Nanos. Those are the leaders. So I would assume that if the two top guys are butting heads, yeah, I would assume that there's probably more of that than less of that. The tracks in the driveway are most likely from an Amazon delivery a few days in advance, going opposite direction, possibly a subscription delivery of Duralogs. Sure, a lot of in a garage and heavy. I mean, it could be, it could be that those could be that. Nancy and Luke do not have the same address, but people could misconstrue it as similar. I'm not familiar with his address. A headband holding his hair. That could be it. That could be why you wear two masks too, right? If you're terrified of the hair you have, right, coming out, maybe perhaps you wear two masks. It's if he's wearing two masks. Double gloves. Actually, there's these gloves that they sell that come double layered. I had Steve on. I don't know if I asked him which ones they were, but there's these super strong gloves. We had them on the channel. I recommend going and checking it out. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick so you guys have a reference of what I'm talking about. But I've had Steve on a couple of times. There's 2 episodes that you probably want to watch when it comes to having Steve. Let me see. And again, I strongly suspect that this guy is not homeless. Oh, also, if you guys are interested in Pokemon and stuff, only got 32 views on the newest episode of Married to the Hobby. Go check us out. We're right here. Please, we're trying to get to 500 subscribers, so we'd appreciate it. Let's see. What was I looking up again? Double gloves. There we go. So Drunk Turkey Show. Okay, let's look up lives. The ones I recommend, obviously all of them, but we have this one where it says Sheriff Nanos live timeline may not be accurate, and here's proof. And then this is one I had Chris on from the interview room. No, not that one. That one. Where is it? I got some interesting stuff here. I gotta find it. The one with it's with Steve from True Crime Web. Where was it that I had him on? Must have been a while ago. I didn't think it was that long. I got to get him back on. There's Mark. Was that before the gloves or after? I don't know. I got it here somewhere. Let me go to the playlist. I'm even having trouble finding my own stuff. Jesus. All right, let's see. Right here. Oh man, I'm even having trouble finding. Don't want to do that. But I have a show stuff. Jesus. I have a show with Steve from True Crime Web, and he goes over the gloves, and I think he has the exact gloves that they used. It was pretty impressive. Let me mute this that way. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the actual playlist. View playlist. There we go. I just want to show this to you guys. Everything, Fallout. All right, right here. Here's one. I think this is one of the last ones. This one was about a month ago. Nancy Guthrie Abduction, Ask the CSI Investigator. It's Steve from True Crime Web. That one's a good one. The one about Nanos lying, that's a good one. That's one with Steve. I think I have one more with Steve where he references. I want to say I was on with, there it is, Disturbing Cover-Up. I think this is the one. And this may have been it. I think Steve's wearing the gloves the entire time. It's kind of funny, but he has these special gloves. And he was doing a test on how much sweat was collected during the 40 minutes that he had him on. But he has on these double layer gloves. It's quite impressive. And this one's called Disturbing Cover Up. Go check it out. There you go. And we're discussing the timeline there. Here. And so this was him trying to rip them off too. And you can see, like, in his hand, he has one pair of gloves that are just the regular nitrate gloves. And then in the second hand, it's like these special gloves that come in that are double layer. There's like a white cloth underneath. That's what he's trying to demonstrate right there, that there's like not white cloth, but like a white glove inside as well. And what they're designed is, if you tear one of the outside ones, it doesn't expose the skin. You have the white glove underneath, and it comes with the 2 layers in. And as you can see in his hand, it is his hand looks like it's thicker, like he's wearing 2 gloves on, and it's more, less wrinkles compared to the one on the left hand. And so I think he was wearing actually this glove. It's a very durable glove. You find that in like Home Depots and in these like Lowe's and stuff. I wonder if a person that's installing things like security cameras, security systems, if they would wear something like that. I know they would probably use a bite light, electricians do. But yeah, I would recommend going and watching that episode. There you go. I mean, you could see the difference in the hand on how wrinkly this one is compared to the other one. It was, I actually have a short out there on it, but now oops, wrong one. There you go. So now what he's doing is he's showing how much sweat is inside of each glove. I know you guys want to see that. But yeah, I don't think he's wearing a double glove. Go check out those videos. The realistic Ben mask with rooted long hair and beads could be something like that. Could be. Thank you. Eyeglasses would reflect more light. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. The only light that's there is the light from the doorbell camera. So it's possible. He's got the bite light. I'm not sure. Does the bite light play a role? Hey, look, Flojo, we just had you on the show. Think there was a show with you on. Yep, it was. It sure was. Thank you, Flojo. Good to see you, my man. We got to do another show together, my man. Yes. I was just a little bit further behind. He did the condensation test on the gloves too. Yes, thank you, Flojo. $199 coming in. Thank you so much, my man. Appreciate you. And if you don't know, go check out this show. Go check out Flojo TV. Does great coverage on this case and also on the David case. You won't be disappointed. So go check him out. And this was the this is the inside of that. Let me unmute it.
The shiny moisture. Nah, we won't do that. But you can see how much sweat has collected on the glove itself.
So I asked him to rip off that other glove to see how difficult it is, because that guy manipulates plants and stuff. And I'm like, I wonder, how hard is it to rip off the glove? And so let's see where he starts to rip it off. Right. Before you pull the other one off, if you were to tear it, would sweat come out of the second one, the bigger, the thicker one, the one that you currently have on? If you were to rip it, would sweat come out of it. Look at how tough this is.
That tells you how tough it is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a tough glove.
That is a tough glove.
Okay. Finally broke it.
You see, it took a lot of effort. It took a lot of effort for him to pull off the glove. And I can't remember which glove it was. I wear gloves almost every day. My hands sweat underneath unless I'm wearing a leather gloves. Snow ski gloves, the white cotton glove underneath, are fantastic for reducing condensation. That's true. That is true. Kind of feel like he's not homeless, but feel like he's living in his parents' house playing video games. The only problem with that is like I feel like he's a loner. I think he has his own place because he took Nancy somewhere. I don't think the plan was to, and this will be the last question of tonight, last comment. I don't think the plan was ever to, I think the plan was to get her out of there alive, right? And so he would have had to have had a place to put her, had to have had a place to have her, to hold her up, and also attend to her and not be noticeable, right? And not be, somebody not notice any of that. So I think he's most likely a loner by himself, right? Brian Koberger was able to do all this weird crap that he was doing because he was by himself for the first time, right? He moved across country. His family wasn't with him. He didn't live with mommy and daddy anymore, etc. And I think that may have been one of the reasons why he may not have committed a crime earlier, was because of that. This guy, I think he lives on his own, but I think he is a loner. He's by himself in those sense. Hey, there's True Crime Web. There he is. And he came in with the question answered. They are Venom Steel Nitrate gloves. So let me pull what those look like real quick. You know what? I'm going to look it up here on YouTube. Venom Steel Nitrate gloves. Just so we can see how durable these are. Let's see.
Hey there guys, Valerie here, and if you're looking for a great rip-resistant industrial glove, check out this one from Venom Steel. So they are thicker, and this one is the 50 pack. You can see the gloves down in here. Here is one of the gloves out of the package. So it could be for your right hand or your left hand. There is not a preference when you're putting them on, but you can see here it's kind of texturized for a non-slip feel, which is nice. And then on the inside, it has this white liner, which we also like. We honestly use these gloves primarily when we are seasoning meat for cook-offs. It's nice to have a thick, non-slip glove to season meat and not get your hands all dirty. So definitely, if you're looking for a rip-resistant, thicker glove, I would check out these from Venom Steel.
Emails drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com. All right, so these are I want to see what they look like on a tighter gripped hand, a man's hand. And so who would be carrying these? Why would they carry these? So very, very tough.
Hey guys, I just want to do a quick review on these Venom industrial gloves. I use these in my garage, working on mini bikes, detailing cars, working on cars. These are really great quality glove. As you can see here, they're really thick. They stick to my hand really well. I have no complaints with them. I've been using them for years. They do not tear or rip, especially in tight places. Highly recommend these gloves. They're great for working out in the yard or just doing little things. They're thick, so they have really good quality, and they have really good grip to them when they get wet. Highly recommend these.
So just a little bit about these gloves, rip resistant industrial gloves. Possible. And if he puts some effort, I don't think you just come across these gloves for no reason, right? I think these come with like a job, somebody experience in something, maybe perhaps they I don't know. It's an interesting thought process to go through and come up with these gloves. But we'll see what happens. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for me tonight. We're over the 2-hour mark. I want to thank everybody that was tuning in tonight. I'll be back on Tuesday night. Unless you like football, I'll be back on tomorrow night on a channel called Steel Curtain Network on an episode of Steelers Hangover. So I'll be there tomorrow night about 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Possibly. It depends. I got to deal with my house. I got hit by lightning, so we got to figure that out first. But I'll be back on Tuesday night. We'll talk more about either this case or more that's coming out. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the content, guys. I would appreciate it. Until next time, we'll see y'all then. Wait, one more second. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope. See y'all then. Peace out, y'all.